Hey guys, this is Bradley Benner with Lead Gadget and the ATM. Today is January 28th, and we're going to do some Q&A today, as we always do. Have several questions on the events page already, so we're going to get started with that. And if anybody wants me to answer any additional questions, just post them on the events page. There's a couple more things I want to go over that we talked about a little bit last week. There was some questions from Elizabeth on the Facebook page about blue chip backlinks. So I'm going to share some things that I shared there on the Facebook page as well here on the events page in case those of you didn't see that. So we'll get to that in a few moments as well. Let me go ahead and grab the screen. Excuse me. And we'll jump over to Google and get into the questions. All right, here we go. Question from Bob Frank. I pulled this from the Facebook page. Guys, please keep in mind, I see those of you that are actually on the page now are doing it correctly, but I am not a Facebook person. And so if you guys post questions in the Facebook on the events notification page in Facebook, chances are it will get missed. The questions for this event should be posted on the event page. That's way they're all in one location, and I don't got to switch back and forth between a bunch of screens to try to find questions. So just kind of anybody that's watching this in the future, please just click on the link in the Facebook page for the notification. It will take you over to this event page, which is where you should post your questions. That way they're all in one location. All right. I pulled this one over from Bob. He says, Bradley, in one of the Hangouts, Brian had mentioned you or him doing something on Yahoo/Bing optimization. I'm not sure if that had been done and I missed it, or if it hadn't been done yet. If not, could you address that in one of your weekly webinars, please? So, Bob, for you, yeah, I don't think we had addressed it. I know I haven't. Maybe Brian did, but I can go over that too. Look, Bing and Yahoo are easy to rank for. It's really about, it's quite simple with Bing and Yahoo to rank. Well, at least with small sites, like typical sites, as far as the big ATM sites, I'm not sure because I haven't really tracked it. I'm usually just tracking Google. But for like normal size sites, an exact match domain is really all you need. As long as your on page is good, you know, you're not stuffing keywords and everything on the on page. Then I found exact match domains work really well in Bing and Yahoo. And then there's a couple tricks that you can do using 301 redirects, and then you can actually just spam the shit out of them and get them to rank. It's not necessarily going to be good for Google, but for Yahoo and Bing, it's quite easy to rank. I mean, I can rank a site in Yahoo and Bing in usually a matter of 7 to 10 days for an exact match keyword. Obviously depending on the competition level, but for an exact match keyword, if I get an EMD, an exact match domain, and then set up a couple 301 redirects. Well, let me open up a notepad and I'll kind of type this out for you guys. You're probably not seeing my whole screen, so let me change the view. We'll walk through this kind of quickly. It'll make more sense if I type it out. So all right, so it's not real complicated for Yahoo and Bing. Now, again, unless you're going to be targeting specifically just Yahoo and Bing traffic, I don't recommend doing this because it's not going to work well for Google. But that's okay. I mean, for example, you could set up a site that you try to that you want to rank in Google, and then set up a second site that you want to rank specifically in Yahoo and Bing, and that's one way that you could do it. So first is going to be an EMD. For those of you that don't know what that is, I'll type it out. That's an exact match domain. Okay, so you're going to want to buy 2 EMDs. All right. So I'm going to actually put that in here. Buy at least 2. Buy 2 EMDs. Okay. Then what you're going to want to do is set up your site on the first EMD. What I mean by buy 2 EMDs is typically they're going to be related keywords. Shoot. I can never talk and type at the same time. Okay, related keywords. So your main keyword, you want to buy the EMD for that, and then you're going to want to buy a secondary domain for, that's like it's an LSI or a synonym, a co-occurring keyword, something that is an LSI keyword, a related keyword. Okay, so it would be kind of like a supporting domain. So set up your site on the first domain. Okay. 3, you're going to redirect your second EMD to the first. You can do via registrar, or you can do it the preferred way in my mind. The way that I like to do it is to use an htaccess redirect. If you have to point it to a server, but then you just add an htaccess file to that server, and then you set up the rewrite engine, the redirect code for an htaccess file. That's how I like to do it. It seems to get crawled faster and indexed quicker that way. The redirect will take effect quicker that way, but you can still do it with a registrar. So I'm going to say you can also do it with cPanel too, registrar, cPanel, or htaccess. Okay. Number 4 is then you use either a secondary redirect, or you can use a link shortener. I prefer to use another domain that I own. I don't know. There's some mixed. Let me just use a link shortener, and I'll explain what I mean here in a minute. Shortener. Link shortener to shorten the second redirect URL. And I'll give you an example here in just a minute. Okay, so what you'll end up with is going to be this. You're going to have shortened link, second EMD, I meant EMD, target URL, which is going to be money site. Okay, so that's it. And this is going to be the shortened link or shortened URL. Let's do that. Call it shortened URL, which is going to redirect. So this is the actual process. So buy 2 EMDs, related keywords, set up your site on the first domain, redirect your second EMD, which is going to be this right here, to point to the first domain. And you can redirect it in one of 3 ways: registrar, cPanel, or htaccess. Registrar is obviously going to be the easiest. Make sure you set it up as a 301. So I'm going to better make that a 301 because that's what passes SEO juice. Then link shortener to shorten the second redirect URL. So you end up with a chain like this. So that's what's called a double 301 redirect. For the shortener, I would suggest using something like tiny URL or URLs, I think it's called, something like that. Do not use, I don't recommend using the Google link shortener for this. I use Google link shorteners for a lot of really ninja stuff, but I don't recommend doing it for spam. Although, since this is just for Yahoo and Bing, you probably could. You probably could, actually. So I'm actually even going to put that in there, goo.gl, only because we don't really care what Google thinks about this, because this is specifically for Yahoo and Bing. Okay. So then from here, we want to go step 5, spam the hell out of the shortened URL. That's it. Rank, rinse, and repeat. Rank, rinse, and repeat. That's it. It works really well. Yahoo and Bing is fairly easy to rank in, guys. Like again, just set up your site, first domain. Let's put with good on-page setup. So as long as you're, and I'll post these notes on the events page, but as long as you've got your main website, your money site on the exact match domain set up the way that, it's good on page. What I mean by that is you've got, it's not over optimized, number 1. You're probably going to want to have at least 2 or 3. I would say at least 3. I like to usually use 3 to 5 supporting articles on the site They could be on a blog on the site that you're going to want to link back to the home page. Okay, so you're going to want to set up the interlinking structure properly. Use and obviously each article, or it could be pages or posts, it doesn't matter. Each article is going to want to be some sort of supporting keyword that would support the EMD, the exact match domain keyword that you set up off of the home, for the main site URL. And you want to link back to the home page on each one of those supporting articles. Okay, again, it could be a page or a post, doesn't matter. You don't need to worry about silo structure or anything like that. Their algorithm isn't nearly as advanced as Google's is. Okay, then excuse me, I got a frog in my throat. 301 redirect your second EMD to the first. That's going to be this point right here. Okay, then once you've done, and again, you can do that registrar, cPanel, or HT access. Once you've done that, then you want to do a 301, a link shortener of your second EMD, right? So that sets up what's called a double 301 redirect. And I like, the reason I say use a link shortener is because these link shorteners typically have a much higher domain authority, which will essentially be a filter for the spam. We're going to spam the hell out of it just to push juice to it. Okay. But you want to use a link shortener here because the authority of the link shortener, or if you have a high metric, expired domain that you purchased, you could use that as well. Okay. But for the most part, to keep it easy, I probably wouldn't waste a high authority expired domain that I purchased on a Yahoo Bing project. I'd rather use that for a Google project. That's just my own thought. So I'd rather just use a tiny URL or a shortened URL here. All right. And we use that basically as the entry point for the spam. And the reason I say that is because, again, it can withstand the abuse because it's a high domain, a high authority type site or domain. Okay. And then you just spam the hell out of the shortened URL. You can use GSA, whatever tools it is that you use for spamming. GSA, Magic Submitter. Whoops. Even in, I don't even know, is SE Nuke even still a product? Do people still use SE Nuke? I know I used to years ago. I don't anymore, but SE Nuke would be another one if it still works. And then you just rank, rinse, and repeat. That's how you do it, guys. I mean, it really doesn't take that long either. You can test it on your own if you don't believe me. Obviously, it's going to depend on the competition level. If you're going after an extremely competitive keyword, you might have to do some more work. But I found for like long tail stuff, that's all it takes. And there's traffic there. There's traffic there. It's not nearly as much as Google, but there's still traffic there. So let me go ahead and copy this and put this on the events page. And excuse me, my partners are chatty today. All right, so that's done. Let's go to the next question. Ganty. Hey, Ganty, how are you, buddy? I'm trying to get a handle on shortcodes, spinning syntax, and formatting text. I'm trying to see if I can put formatting functions in a shortcode and also be able to spin. So I want to create a shortcode for some text, want to format the text, and want to spin the formatted text. Formatting functions like identifying a sentence as H1, H2, H3, text bold, text italicizing, text underline. Okay. I have seen lots of, just a minute, Ganty. I have seen lots of videos where Brian did where he uses shortcodes for content and makes doing sites easy and fast, but I was not sure that I can put spinning format of text in the data content of the shortcode. Most of the time I've seen that the H2, H3 are done outside of the shortcodes. Appreciate the info. Most probably I will try to get up in the morning to ask follow-up questions. Yeah, Ganty, sorry, man, but I can only do morning webinars on Thursdays right now because I've got a class I take on Thursday nights now. So it won't be forever. But anyways, yeah, I think formatting would get stripped out of shortcodes. I've tried it, but it's been many, many months ago since I've done it, and it didn't work. So I just stopped doing it. I don't know if it's been changed. It most likely has not been. However, that would be a good question to ping Don in the Skype group, or excuse me, the Facebook group, and let him chime in on it, because obviously he would know whether, if he changed anything or not. I honestly don't know. just because, again, many months ago, I tried doing some styling within shortcodes and it didn't work either. So I just stopped doing it. However, that said, the text bold, text italicizing, text underline, like that is like, 2005 SEO. I wouldn't recommend doing that anyways. Not for, again, not for Google. I haven't tested that on ATM sites. I just know that's some really old school SEO practices, and it's not something that I do at all anymore, because it is like so old school. It's quite blatant what you're doing when you do that kind of stuff. So I don't know. I don't do it. If you want to experiment with it, that's fine. Maybe some people have done that here and it works for them. It's just something that I don't ever do anymore. I haven't done that for 3 or 4 years at least. So, but as far as H1s, H2, H3s, I would just ping Don in the Facebook group and ask him. But, usually what I would do is I would keep, like, if I'm going to be using headings, and I've talked about this before, I use a little tool called Fresh Title that will spin out or create a whole bunch of titles for me. Like, for example, let me just open this up. If I go over here and let's say I'm doing a site on walk-in tubs. I'm going to put walk-in tubs here and click generate, and it'll generate this long list of titles that I can use. And these are the types of things that I put in for H tags. Okay. And I'll grab, I'll export this list, and it's got 837 titles here, and I'll export the list and I'll go through and edit, 50 of them roughly. And maybe add a shortcode in there for my location data, maybe not, as long as my keyword's in there. And then what I'll do is I'll spin those together and then create a title shortcode out of it. And I'll use the same shortcode maybe twice in the article. Once at the top as an H2, and then maybe another as an H3 towards the bottom or towards the middle of, or 2/3 of the way down on the article. And then I'll just wrap the shortcode in H tags. So it'll be essentially like, at the top, it'll be H2 shortcode, close H2 tag. And then I'll do the same thing at the bottom, because they're going to be randomly generated anyways, as a shortcode, not as a custom list, but as a shortcode, right? They're going to be randomly generated when it pulls from there. And so if you just wrap the shortcode in the H tags at that point, it's going to style whatever's inside the whatever's inside the tags, the H tags, once it pulls at random one of the versions out, if that makes sense. So I haven't tried styling like a whole paragraph or sections of a paragraph that then I create a shortcode out of, because that would mean the styling tags are within the shortcode, the text that was, created the shortcode. And I don't know that works. Just test it and try it. You're not going to blow anything up, I promise. If it doesn't work, then, ask Don. Maybe that's something that he can change. Maybe not. You just have to ask him. Gandhi says, I buy my domains from Namecheap. I have always done the Whois protection for my domains. I was talking to some of my colleagues, and they're divided on this. Some say getting Whois protection is good, not only for Google, but for people who spy. Some say putting fake information in Whois, and yet a third person says just to leave them in plain sight. I get concerned about this recently, as some people are saying that Whois protection in itself is a footprint. Can you kindly discuss the pros and cons and your opinion, which is better? Thank you. I just always do Whois, Ganti. I do it unless it's a domain that doesn't allow it. Like, for example, .us domains, they don't allow Whois protection. So it does expose who purchased them, but I don't buy a whole lot of those. So I just always use it. In Namecheap, you can set up the Whois email that is displayed publicly. You can set it up to where it rotates, like it changes the reply to email or whatever often. It's a setting in Namecheap, and so that's something that you can do if you're worried about the Whois email footprint or whatever. I honestly don't care. I haven't had any problems with it, so I just use the Whois because I don't want. I get a ton of spam emails, which you will do if you leave them in your own name. And I don't know. I've never done the whole fake data thing for registering domains. What I will do is, like, if I'm building a network out or something, PBN network, private blog network. I'll buy domains in different registrars or using different Namecheap accounts, for example. But I don't go change the Whois data for each domain that I buy, or the registrant info for each domain that I buy. I've just got a handful of accounts that I use to purchase domains under. a handful of Namecheap's accounts. I've got several GoDaddy accounts. I've got some other, like Phoenix domains and domaincheapsters.net, maybe it's .net.com or .net. There's several of them that I use. Okay. Registrars for like building out networks. But for lead gadget sites, honestly, probably 95% of the domains that I use are in Namecheap. And I just use the Whois information, the default Whois information. I don't worry about it that much. Robert says, Bradley, I'm experimenting with Index Nuke as you are. What indexing rate do you recommend? I can only load 2 national builds at a time, but I'm building faster than that. How would you load it? Thanks, Robert. Robert, yeah, that's unfortunately the problem is it only allows, I think, 10 campaigns at any one given time. And I think the max is what, 7,500 URLs per campaign. So if you change your sitemap settings to display 7,500 URLs and then extract the URLs from the sitemap that way, which is what I've been doing, you can get a site essentially. If you're gonna submit tags too, then you end up being with what, 5? Yeah, it should be like 5 sitemaps. So it's only 2 sites at a time. That's right. I don't know. I've been experimenting with it for the last couple of weeks. I've tried to do a slower drip at like 10 days, but to me that's just too long, especially if you're building more sites. I'm not building nearly as many sites as you guys, I'm sure. I just haven't had the time. But I've tried it in the last few days with a site that I ran through on like a 10-day index rate, and it indexed well, but then a lot of the stuff disappeared again, fell out of the index, which is normal. But I was kind of getting anxious with this one site, so I ran it through on a 3-day drip and had it run through a second time on a 3-day drip, and it worked well. So Robert, I would just play with it. I honestly can't tell you for sure what's the best rate because I haven't experimented enough. I would say probably 3 to 5 days is probably a decent time. And then once it's done, just go to another site because it's going to take some time for everything to index properly anyways. And then what you can do is if it doesn't, if you come back 10 days later or 2 weeks later and it's still not indexed as well as you'd like, just run it a second time. There's nothing wrong with that. So, all right, next. Barry says, I just wanted your opinion on the debate between XYZ and .com, .net, etc. All my XYZ have either been de-indexed or not ranking at all, yet .com domains of the same content are still okay and ranking pretty well. I'm now checking and adjusting keyword density on all new sites. Just waiting for them to index. Most are XYZ. Thanks, Barry. Barry, I'm probably going to catch some shit about this, but I don't use .xyz, period. I don't do it. I use strictly top-level domains, .com, .net, .org. Sometimes a .us, sometimes, or .biz. But I can tell you 90% of the sites that I build are going to be on top-level domains, and I don't buy brand new domains for these anymore. I buy expired domains that already have metrics that are topically relevant or that were topically relevant to what it is that I'm going to be building them on, to what type of sites I'm going to be building on that domain. And I do that using a domain crawler. I've got some notes here I'm going to share with you guys. I talked about this a little bit last week, and Elizabeth asked me to expand on it some more. So I've got some additional notes here for you guys. And so a couple training videos. I did an actual, here, let me just grab that now. I'll post this on the page. There's a domain crawler that I use to find expired domains that I can register for just the cost of registration at Namecheap. Okay, and they're I buy them with metrics already, so that have topical trust flow metrics based on the topic, so they're topically relevant of what I'm going to be building on. So, for example, if I'm buying a plumber site, if I'm going to be building a site for a local plumber, then I will go find domains that were expired plumbers domains, preferably in the area, the location that I'm going to be building the site for. Okay. So, and it's not difficult when you got the proper tools to do that. And I'll look and I'll make sure that the domain that I'm purchasing already has some metrics. I typically look for trust flow 10 plus, but it's not just the trust flow metrics I'm looking at. I'm looking at the topical trust flow, those are Majestic SEO metrics, by the way. So you need a subscription at Majestic SEO to be able to confirm what topical trust flow is. But then what you do is, if you want to make sure, like, for example, for plumbers, you'd be looking for the business construction or construction and maintenance subcategory. That's the type of topical trust flow you'd be looking for. And and it doesn't have to be a local plumber site. It could just be a plumber site in general, so that the topical trust flow is, so what I mean by it doesn't have to, it could be a plumber domain. Preferably you're going to want to try to find an expired domain from a business, a business maybe that went out of business that was in that area. Because now, like, if you're doing a local site, if you're doing a national site, then it really wouldn't matter which location the domain was from. But what I'm saying is like, I'll try to find a domain that had, that was topically relevant and geographically relevant. But if I can't get both, then I'm looking for topical relevance more so than geographical relevance. And then what I'll do is, because you can re-theme it by changing the geographic, the location data on the site when you build out the new site. That's how I do it. And so those are typically always going to be .coms, .nets, or usually .coms or .nets. Sometimes .bizes, or .biz domains. So anyways, blue chip backlinks, that's what I use. Guys, I posted links to 2 webinar. I had to edit these because the first one, webinar with Terry Kyle, he's the developer. He's the one that developed that tool. And I had him on for a webinar with my mastermind students about a month ago now, or 3 or 4 weeks ago. And so I had to edit just the section out with Terry Kyle and create a separate video, because that was a whole mastermind webinar. So you guys, there's that available for you. And then I did another one for my masterclass students last week, I guess it was, and I did another demonstration on blue chip backlinks there. The second one, I go specifically through 4 ways that I use that tool to find domains, to either build on or to use for a link network, to build a link network. Okay. And so I go through 4 specific examples of how to do that there. So if you guys have some time, both webinars together are about an hour. If you have time, go through those. You'll see how powerful that is. And that's how I'm building all my ATM sites now. I'm finding domains that have topical relevancy already, have trust flow 10 plus, again, with the topical trust flow being the most important metric that I'm looking at. And then I build out on those. Okay. And just so you guys know, before I get questions and saying, yeah, but if you build on a subdomain, you're not getting the actual trust flow metrics. Well, no, that's not true, because I'm building on the root domain now, but I'm using the www version. So it's still considered a subdomain, which protects the root. And I'm still getting the full trust flow metrics, because if you look in Majestic SEO, when you're analyzing a domain, about 9 times out of 10, the www version of the domain is going to have the higher trust flow metrics anyways. So I am still building on a subdomain in air quotes, because using the www version of a domain is considered a subdomain. Even if you don't have to actually install it in a subdomain folder on the server, it's still considered a subdomain. Google still considers it a subdomain, so it protects the root domain. So that in case something were to happen and that were to catch a penalty, I could literally undo the www version of it, which is just a setting in WordPress, go back to the root, and I get my site back. Or I could reinstall the site on another subdomain that I set up. And yes, at that point, I would lose the trust flow metrics. But it's just kind of a safeguard, fire stop, so to speak. Okay. Peter says, de-indexing issues. I am a SERP Shaker user. I am behind Cloudflare, set up the right way, no crime, flare, footprint, etc. And I noticed that someone from Google Office IP came to 10 plus of my sites from the same IP. Within 10 minutes later, they are all de-indexed. Any possible recommendations on what may be causing this? Thanks. Peter, no, I have no idea. I haven't seen it yet. The only sites I've ever had de-indexed are the sites that I've shared publicly on these webinars. And then every single one of them got de-indexed. So I don't share any of my sites anymore, and I haven't had any problems with them. So unfortunately, I don't know where the footprint issue is coming from. I wish I could help you, Peter, but I don't know. I've been fortunate enough to only have sites de-indexed that I've shared publicly, which is why I don't share my sites anymore. Let's see. Fourth step, the link shortener. Ganty's asking about the Bing method. Can I use the pretty links to do that? Is the second EMD the money site? You said authority site. When you buy 2 EMDs, how can you have an authority site? No, I didn't say that. Ganty, you misunderstood me. The second EMD is not an authority site. All you're doing is you're buying 2 exact match domains. They're not the same exact keyword. You're going to buy, let's say you buy 2.coms, and let's say, I don't know, let's say we're doing a local site. So we're going to say walk-in tubs. I don't know. Let's say Alexandria VA.com. Now I wouldn't buy that. Excuse me. I wouldn't buy that for a Google site because I don't buy EMDs like that anymore for Google. But that, let's say that's number 1. Then what I would do is maybe say, what are some other walk-in bathtub? Maybe, I don't know. Let's just use that because I can't think of a better one at this time. Walk-in bathtubs. Bathtubs. AlexandriaVA.com. Okay, so this is what I would do. Now, I know those are 2 very closely related keywords or EMDs, but it is what it is. This is just for an example. So let's say that my money site I would build on this. I didn't say authority site. I said the link shorteners are authority are authority sites. They have inherent authority because they've been around for a long time. People spam the hell out of them all the time. So there's domain authority there. That's what I said. So, but let's just say that we do tiny url.com / okay, let's just say that's what we shortened it at. So this is what I was talking about. This would be your money site. You build it on here. Then you have a secondary EMD that you buy that has got another keyword, a related keyword, a synonym that you use. So it would be like a supporting keyword. You use that to do a 301 redirect to the money site. Okay. Then you shorten this URL with a URL shortener. So because it has domain authority. If you tried to just use a pretty link here from another domain that you own, unless that domain has a real high domain authority, if you spam it, you're going to end up pushing some of the spam over. And this isn't for Google. This is for Yahoo and Bing, and their algorithms are different. But it won't. You'll be basically passing some bad link juice all the way through that chain. For Google, you can do a double 301 redirect and spam stuff if you know what you're doing properly. But we're not going to talk about that right now because I don't want to open up the floodgates of questions. So I'm talking about specifically Yahoo and Bing. Okay. Then just using like tiny URL, or even in this case, a goo.gl, Google link shortener, you can spam the shit out of those for this type of a setup because essentially those can withstand that kind of abuse. Just kind of like anybody that does YouTube stuff knows that you can get away with a hell of a lot more when it comes to spamming and link building and link velocity, the speed with which you build links to a YouTube video than you can a self-hosted WordPress site, right? And it's because of the authority of those sites. Or a Facebook page, for example. You can spam a Facebook page to the top of the search results because it has the inherent authority of the site can withstand that type of the amount and volume of links being thrown at it, right? So that's all I'm saying. Okay. We're all. Let's see. Ganty says, so whatever formatting, spinning experiment I could do, can I put it in Spin Rewriter and it will work the same as when you put in the WordPress content? So Spin Rewriter and the WordPress content space will handle the spinning and formatting the same way. That way I don't have to build a site to know what each kind of result I can expect. I don't understand the question. You mean, can you put the styling in the text first and then put it in the Spin Rewriter and before it spins? I don't know. You'd have to try it, Ganty. Don't be afraid to test stuff. Just do it. See if it works. Personally, I'd spin it first and then add the text styling elements around the spin tags. That's what I would do. But if you want to try it, I'm not sure I'm understanding the question. Maybe I'm not understanding the question. Yeah, maybe I'm not understanding the question, but I would just spin the text first, then add my styling elements to the spun text, the spin tags. You know what I mean? That's how I would do it. And then add it to then go build a shortcode with it if you want to test it, and go build a site. You don't have to build a 30,000 page or post site, guys, to test something. Go create a custom list with 5 cities, 5 key, counties, 5 or 1 county, that you use 5 times. Just go build a very short custom list. You could do 5 or 10 elements in the custom list. Stick it on a test domain, add a test domain to the ATM. Then go do all your content testing by just adding content to that domain, hitting the deploy button. In about 30 seconds time, the site will be built. And then you can go log in and see what it looks like. If there's errors, if there's formatting errors, if it didn't build properly, if it, whatever, just hit the bomb button, go back, make some adjustments, hit deploy again. That's all I'm saying. You don't have to wait for a 30,000 site post site to be completed before to test everything. Just set up a small set of custom lists that you use for testing purposes only, and test. It only takes a few seconds. In fact, I know that site building is so much quicker now. I built one last night that was about 22,000 posts. It's a statewide site using the keyword method that I shared with you guys many months ago now. And I think it was built in like 6 minutes. I was really impressed. Like, I really wasn't expecting it, but it was deployed in about 6 minutes time with about a 22,000 posts. So, if you do something very small, like set up, 10 elements in the custom list for testing purposes, you could probably have it built in about 30 seconds, if even that. All right. In the declaration of the site in WordPress, the only way to set up a domain as www, how do you declare www and HTTP if the site is an HTML5 page? I don't understand what you mean, Ganti. Honestly, when you're in WordPress, go to Settings General and just change the site URL. Once a site is built on the root domain, all you need to do is go into the Settings General inside of WordPress, and then just change the URL for the site address and the site URL. It's right at the very top of Settings General, and just add www to both of those URLs and click Save Changes. Then it will prompt you to to log back in. But from that point forward, everything will show and display as www whatever the URL is. It's very, very simple. And in Google's eyes, that's considered a subdomain. So I'm not sure what you mean about the HTML5 pages. Don't overcomplicate this stuff, guys, please. I think we all I know as an SEO, it's easy to start overcomplicating stuff, but just don't. It's so much, just take action, test things. As far as like changing the URL in WordPress, that's a very simple process. Testing these things that guarantee that you want to test with styling, just set up a test site, run through it. I mean, that's all I do. A lot of times, if you guys ask me questions I don't have the answer to, all I'm going to do is go set up a test site and try to figure it out, which you guys have the time to do that too, I'm assuming. You don't have to wait for me to do it, is what I'm saying. So. Yeah, well, Peter, yes and no. I mean, once you've set it up, it's a canonical. It's an automatic. WordPress handles it in the back end. All you do is create the setting inside the settings general, and WordPress will automatically set up the redirect. It's a canonicalization, right? So if you build it on the root, which is how the ATM is going to deploy it. The ATM is going to deploy it on the root domain unless you set up specifically a subdomain, which you don't need to do. And for example, when you add a root domain, when you add a domain name to the ATM, it automatically goes to Cloudflare and sets up the DNS records, right? And it automatically creates a CNAME, a www.cname record that will redirect to the root URL. So once the site is deployed, you go to Settings General, you just change the site address and the site URL to add the www.version. You click Save Changes. It's going to prompt you to log back in. Now you log back in, and WordPress will have automatically set up the redirect in the back end, the 301 redirect, to where no matter whether you visit the root domain only or the www.version of it, it's going to automatically redirect to the www.version every time. and it will be canonicalized. In other words, the canonical tag will be set as well. So it'll be both the 301 and a canonical. So it doesn't really matter because one is they both serve the same purpose at that point for SEO. So let's see. Michael says, hi, I'm new. Can you be penalized for too many domains or too many keywords? Not sure what you mean. How could penalize for too many domains? For what? For buying too many domains? I hope not. So I think I've got about 400 or 500 domains in my Namecheap account. So I don't know what you mean by can you be penalized for too many domains or too many keywords. I don't really understand, Michael, the question there. If you can clarify, you can be penalized for stuffing a site with too many keywords. Yeah, like if you're keyword stuffing your content, absolutely. You can be penalized or de-indexed entirely, which is usually what happens now. You'll get a pure spam manual action if your site is submitted to Search Console, which most of you don't do, so you would never know anyways, other than it's just not indexed. But yeah, you can absolutely get penalized for stuffing too many keywords. But for too many domains, I don't know what you mean there. I've got hundreds of domains. I know shit. Brian and Dawn, they buy thousands of domains. So talk to them, ask them. I don't think that's possible. I don't know how that could be possible. Gandhi says the sites are not built with WordPress, but are built using something like Mass Page Creator or something like that, which does not use WordPress, but the sites are just HTML pages. So if I'm not building a site using WordPress, is there a way to declare the site as www or HTTP? Gandhi, I don't know. That's not specific to what we're talking about here. I can't answer that question, buddy. Honestly, I can't. Now, what I would do is once the site is built, you could. You see, with an if you've got, it's got to be hosted on a server, right? So if it's hosted on a server, you could add an htaccess file that handles that. You can create a directive in the htaccess file that will handle that to where it will always redirect to the www version. That is, if it's got to be hosted on a server somewhere, right? So you could do that. If it is hosted on a server that has Apache or whatever, you could do the htaccess, which will handle that. But as far as, I don't know which platform you're talking about, Ganti. I can't comment on that. Okay. Michael says, yes, for buying. No, Michael, you can't get penalized for buying domains. Just, use at least Whois protection. In my opinion, there must going to probably be differing opinions on that, but I just recommend that you use Whois protection and just buy as many domains as you want. Don't worry about it. There we go. Stuffing. That's it. Yeah, no, we don't want to stuff. Yes, you can absolutely be penalized for that. Peter says, so what you're saying is that if the www version is de-indexed, not www should still be fine. Yes, Peter, that's exactly what I'm saying. That's the point. If you, that's why I always build everything on subdomains, guys. I don't build on the root domains, period. Don't confuse I've been teaching this since I started teaching for Lead Gadget and ATM. I've been building on subdomains for years, but when I came over when I started doing training and these webinars for Lead Gadget and the ATM, I was talking about this because this is just what I always do, and there's been a lot of debate about it. And I don't care what you guys do. You guys do whatever the hell makes you happy. I'm just telling you exactly what I do, and I always build on subdomains because Google considers a subdomain a unique website. So if you build on a root, okay, if you build on the root domain, say it's domain.com. Let's walk through this, guys, because this is the same kind of question. This question comes up repeatedly. There ought to be a frequently asked questions area on the site somewhere that we can post these kind of answers, because we go through this all the time, I swear to God. Okay, so let's say domain.com, right? So this is going to be your root. Okay. If you build a site on this, on domain.com, and you catch a penalty, then all of the pages and posts on the domain were going to be de-indexed. If the site gets de-indexed or catches a penalty, which could be a panda or a penguin penalty. In our case, since we're not really building backlinks to these types of things, it's going to be a panda penalty. It would be most likely be a panda penalty. Then the entire domain is going to come down. If not de-indexed, it's going to be demoted considerably. And any of the pages and posts on that domain are going to be also demoted as well. Now, likewise, if you build on a root, but you build on a subdomain. So let's just say we're going to, let's use a local example. and we just used Alexandria, which is a city. So let's say alexandria.domain.com. Say you're building a site on a subdomain for this, and you had, so I'm just going to call this a subd. Okay. Let's say that you had a site built on this, the root, but then you went ahead and you wanted to add a subdomain to that root domain and build another site on that, right? Perfectly fine to do that, guys. There's no reason you can't. You can add multiple subdomains. For example, let's say that we wanted to build on another one over here for another neighboring city, which would be like, say, Fairfax. Yeah, that would be another subd. And just to drive this point home, let's do another one. Let's say, I don't know, Springfield. That's another city in Northern Virginia. Let's say you wanted to do this so that you could target local sites and separate them. Each one of these would be a separate WordPress installation, which is fine, which is what's good about this is you're only buying one domain, right? And you can build multiple sites on one domain by using subdomains. It's economical to do so. But the problem arises if you have built on this and you catch a penalty to this root domain, it wipes all of this out because the entire domain is shot. It's burned. It's done. So anything on the root, anything beyond the root, as in pages or posts, are all burned, as well as all subdomains. It tanks the entire domain, is my point. Okay. However, if you don't build on the root and you just build on subdomains, then if you were to catch a penalty on this right here, you only lose this one. These other two are still going to remain intact. Okay. And the root is protected because there wasn't a penalty levied against the root, which is a domain-wide penalty. A subdomain penalty only sticks to the subdomain. So my point is, you can build on the root. Okay, you can still build on the root, meaning like when you set up the domain in the ATM, you deploy the site on the root, but then immediately go in and change it to the www version. Okay, because that way you get to keep the metrics, especially if you're buying expired domains the way that I just shared, the way that I do it, which is working really well, and that's to buy domains that have metrics already, specifically with topical trust flow, related to what I'm going to be building the site for. Okay, but go in immediately to the WordPress once the site is deployed and change the site URL to www.version. You don't have to worry about adding a subdomain inside of the ATM or inside of Cloudflare. All that's already been done. You just need to change the site address, which is done in Settings General in WordPress, to the www.version. Because in Google's eyes, even though the site files are actually hosted here at the root level, we've added the www.version, and that is considered a subdomain. So yes, if something were to happen and this were to catch a penalty, then you could eliminate this entirely and just go back to the domain.com version of it, and you'd get your site back. Okay, or you could switch it up and say, add a new subdomain and transfer the files over to there. And potentially you could even just do a 301 redirect. I wouldn't do that though. Actually, I would actually move the files. I would migrate the files to a subdomain, and then I would have blog.domain.com, for example. That's just an example. Or you could put, city.domain.com, and you would get your site back, right? And the thing about the ATM is you've already got the site once it's deployed. You just go to deployed sites, hit the recycle, or deployed content, hit the recycle button for that particular. If you caught a domain, or excuse me, say you caught a penalty here on the site that you had installed here, right? Then all you need to do is go delete that or bomb that, right? Get rid of it, and then redeploy the content on a new subdomain that you've added on that domain. And boom, you've got your site back. Doesn't mean it's going to rank immediately because it's still got to go through the process of getting re-indexed and everything. But you didn't lose it. You know what I'm saying? Because the domain didn't get burned. You can still use you can still use that domain. That's my point. Okay. So that's why I do everything on subdomains, guys. Even if I am going to build on the root, I build it on the www version of it so that it's acting as a subdomain. But for the most part, if I'm buying expired domains, I'm now building on the root, but using the www version so that I can benefit from the metrics. But if I'm buying a brand new domain that's never been registered before, And then I immediately go into subdomain building like this. Okay, where I'll use, city specific or keyword specific subdomains that I'm trying to, use for building to get a little bit of a SEO boost out of it. All right, so hopefully that makes sense. Okay, guys, we're almost at the hour. It looks like the questions are about done. So, cool. All right. Well, hopefully that was helpful, guys. It looks like we had a lot more people show up today than we have the last few weeks, which is pretty cool because it was getting pretty lonely talking to the screen with only 1 or 2 people showing up. Not that I don't appreciate you being here, Ganty, but it's nice to see some new faces show up. And I appreciate that, guys. Try to make it back again next week. I'm going to be doing them in the morning every Thursday at 7:30 a.m. For now until my class is completed that I'm in which case we'll go back to alternating between 7:30 a.m. and 7:30 p.m. Every other week. We'll alternate times. But in the meantime, we're just going to have to do them Thursday morning. So appreciate you guys being here. We will see you all. Peter, I see one question came in. As soon as I answer this, I'm closing out, guys. I got to go. But so do you use 5 subdomains max? No, Peter, I use as many as I need to. As many as I need to. I know, again, you're going to hear conflicting stories. I'm telling you what I do. You can choose to test this on your own and decide on what you want to do on your own. You can listen to other people, what they, their suggestions. I'm telling you, I've got local, I do a lot of local SEO for clients, and I've got subdomains out there, like, 15 subdomains on one domain, and they all rank and they all produce a ton of leads. And I have no problem adding subdomains. I don't think I've gone beyond 15 subdomains. But it's not because that's like the magic number. It's just there was no need to build out any further for that particular client. I've purchased domains, expired domains that have had hundreds and even sometimes thousands of subdomains, those were like spam Chinese domains that I would use specifically for 301 redirect methods to push juice. It's kind of some black hat SEO stuff that I was doing with it. But, I've never, we're talking about sites that were indexed that had thousands of subdomains. So, as far as I know, there is no threshold or no set number of subdomains max that you should use. Again, you'll probably hear conflicting stories from other people. So you choose to listen to whoever you want to. And what I recommend you do is your own testing. Okay. Yeah, exactly. 15 subdomains brings the cost to less than $1 for a site. Wow, that's what I'm saying. And, I've got a tree service client that I did that for, and we've got subdomains ranked in Google Maps. They've got a separate maps listing in about 15 locations. And each site is built on a subdomain that's got the city as the name, just like this. And so they're each separate WordPress sites. They're all protected, so that if something were to happen and any one of them were to get de-indexed, all the other ones are still protected. What would have happened had I built that client site on domain.com and just put location pages, right? And ranked each one of the location pages in maps. So let's say I had 15 different locations. So instead, what would a lot of people do? They build domain.com /location 1, right? Then /location 2, then you know what I mean? And so what would happen if I were to catch a penalty, I'd lose all 15 locations. Does that make sense? So by doing it this way, if I were to catch a penalty on any one of those sites, the other 14 would remain intact and producing leads. So it's a way to mitigate your risk, right? And that's the whole point. That's why I do everything on subdomains, guys. It's to limit my exposure, and it's a safe way to protect your domain and all of your effort, So do subdomains count as one domain? No, they count as separate domains, Bill. That's what I'm talking about. Each site is considered a separate site, right? Each one of these right here would be considered a separate site. That's the whole point. Because if any one of them were to catch a problem. Now, again, guys, if you're just starting out, don't worry about all this stuff. Just build them on the root domains and use the www version. And as you get more comfortable building, then you can start doing some of the advanced stuff. If you're buying domains with metrics, you're going to want to use the root version of it, but then change it to the www inside the WordPress settings. Okay, because again, that's going to be considered as a subdomain. All right. But if you're buying brand new domains, then I recommend you just start right off building out subdomains like this. Okay. Now I know Don posted in the Facebook group yesterday about how if you're building on subdomains and you're leaving the root domain blank to where it says like the server pilot stuff or whatever, that their sites are taking longer to index. And that may be true. I haven't tested one way or the other. I'm not, if Don says it's so, then I believe it's so. You know what I'm saying? I'm not contradicting that at all. But what I'm saying is if you're building sites on subdomains with brand new domains that you've registered, it wasn't because of metrics that you purchased them. You just went out and registered because it was a keyword you wanted or whatever. And you start building directly on subdomains. And if it is slower to index because the root domain is sitting there blank, which if Don says is so, then I believe him. Then what you can do is point the domain through Cloudflare, log into the Cloudflare account. And if you have a hosting account, a regular hosting account, not the Lead Gadget hosting, but just to go get a HostGator account. I can't believe I just said that because I hate HostGator. Go get a inexpensive hosting account somewhere else that most of you probably already have one anyways for regular style WordPress sites, and point the root domain, just the root domain, the A record, over to the host that you have. It's an A record with the IP address. You can set the. I'll have to do a separate training on it. I don't have time today, but maybe next week I can show you guys how you can point the root over to or point it to somewhere where you can put up like just an HTML page, but you could still have your site built out on your subdomain sites pointed to your HTM host, your Lead Gadget host, where your ATM sites are hosted. So what I'm saying is you could set up like a single page site, okay, a single page site on your regular hosting and point your root domain to that. It's a different IP address. It's called DNS mapping. It's easy to do with Cloudflare. It's incredibly easy to do. It just takes you 30 seconds to set it up. And I can show you guys how to do this next week. I don't have time to do it now. But you can point your root domain to one host, and then all your subdomains will be pointed to your ATM host, your Lead Gadget host. Okay, so there'll be two different IPs, but it doesn't matter. And that way your root would still have content on it. You could set up a one-page site that just has essentially, you could have a graphic on it. You could even use the Ultimate Coming Soon plugin, which is a WordPress plugin that will put a coming soon page up that you can put content on, images, whatever, and you could say, this site is under construction and put an image up or whatever you want it, because then it's not a blank server pilot domain. At least it looks like it's under construction. The root is under construction. And guys, I can show you how to do that next week. I don't have time to do it now, but it is incredibly easy to do with Cloudflare, because all you do is you just change the A record for the root domain to point to the IP of whatever server it is you're going to point it to. Bluehost, A2 hosting, Liquid Web, whatever host it is that you use. Okay. And then all your subdomains are going to automatically already be pointed to the ATM host, because you did that when you added the subdomains in the ATM. Cloudflare will take care of that for you. Okay. I got to go, guys. The reason my question, I have a client, potential client that has an appliance store, and he has 5 different states with no web presence. So should I do like 5 cities for each state? I'm not really sure this would be a big deal for me. Has an appliance store in 5 states with no web presence. I would like to do 5 cities for each state. So that'd be 25 sites in total, right? What I would do is just 5 subdomains, state subdomains. And then I would build out the sites that would be statewide sites, or however, regional, however you want to do it. But I would do something like, like Virginia.domain.com. And, I don't know, say Carolina, and you could even possibly just do .domain.com, or you could do something like nc.domain.com, or in this case, va.domain.com. That's how I would do it. I would build out 5 separate statewide sites using a format like this. Does that make sense? Because then again, if any one of your sites, one of your state sites got penalized, you're good to go. So, God, I got to go. You guys are killing me today. That's all right. The engagement is here today. Usually it hasn't been recently. If you had built out the site on domain.com, using the ATM, right? And you build out a site with 5 states worth of content on there, it's only one site to manage at that point, which is, it's easier for management purposes. However, like I said, if you were to catch a penalty on the site or get it de-indexed, you lost all 5 locations, which is why I like to do it like this, because I can get a bit more granular, first of all, with my content this way, because it's all focused around particularly one state. But second of all, if I were to catch a penalty or get de-indexed on any one of these, the other 4 remaining states would still be up producing leads. Does that make sense? That's why I would do it that way. Yes, it's 5 sites that you have to maintain. So you have to take that into consideration. Like, I wouldn't recommend building, if you were doing a site for all 50 states, a national site, I don't recommend doing 50 subdomains and doing it that way. I certainly don't recommend that, because that's entirely too much management work. In that case, just build them on the root. Does that make sense? But again, if you're just doing 5, in my opinion, I would do 5 statewide sites like this. And that would also enable me to target multiple keywords per site build. And that's done using some other methods that I've shared in the past, where you can use in your custom list, instead of your custom list just being location data, you could add keyword data in there as one of the 4 custom lists, right? And then build your site out to where you're targeting multiple keywords, where you can end up having, 30,000 post site build for each state, because you're targeting multiple keywords per state instead of just one keyword per site. If that makes sense? I'll have to walk you guys through that again, perhaps next week, because I don't have time now, but we've also covered that in recent webinars and past webinars. Okay. Okay, guys, I got to go. So I'm already late. I will see you guys next week. Thanks for everybody being here. It was a good session today, and we will see you all next Thursday at 7:30 a.m. Bye.